You probably know that one of my nicknames, apart from Mad Max, is the Albertan from Quebec. So I'm very, very proud to be the Albertan from Quebec. So it is always a pleasure to be back here in Calgary to reconnect with my Alberta roots. And it's even more of a pleasure to be in a room full of true Alberta conservatives. That's like being in a conservative heaven, but just to be sure, I don't want any misunderstanding here. I'm talking, of course, of a small c conservative heaven. And I hear that, like Sheila said, that the leader of the big C conservatives, Andrew Scheer, has declined Ezra's invitation to address this room. As you all know, at the Conservative Convention in Halifax in August, the Rebels journalists were banned. Not respectable enough. Which means that you too, in this room, attending this rebel conference, are considered not respectable by the conservative leadership. That should tell you something. Is the Conservative Party of Canada still a true small c conservative party? For me, I know the answer of that. It is no. It is no, and that is why I resigned in August and created a new political party. I wrote that, but maybe I made a mistake. I will read it. I'm fairly certain that some of you in this room are not happy about my departure from the Conservative Party of Canada. Maybe I'm wrong. But perhaps you believe that I should have stayed and pushed for my ideas within the party. That we should have remained united to beat the Trudeau Liberals next year. I want to tell you, I tried to do this for more than a year without success. And this is why I plan to continue, and I plan to continue until just a few days before my resignation. When my tweets about radical multiculturalism created a storm in early August, I thought I was expressing what almost all conservatives believe in. We must start pushing back against this politically correct nonsense that is destroying our country. But the reaction from my conservative colleagues was universally negative. And then, in a phone conversation, Andrew Scheer told me that I did not represent the party and my ideas were not welcome. Actually, he repeated the same line publicly. And I was told to either shut up and toe the party line or leave. This should not have surprised anyone. Andrew plays the same game of pandering as Trudeau. And I have a question for you. Are you following Andrew Scheer on Twitter or Facebook? No? Every second day, he wishes Happy Independence Day or Happy whatever holiday to Canadians who immigrated here in Canada from this or that country. He seemed to be running not for being Prime Minister, but for Secretary General of the UN. This is the Trudeau way of doing politics. Focus on what divides us instead of appealing to our common identity and treating us as Canadian first and foremost. That's not a conservative way. So what should have done after all that? There come times in life when you have to choose. Choose to play along in a losing game, or choose to be true to yourself, true to your principles, and loyal toward all the people who supported me. I chose the principal alternative, and I hope today to convince you to do the same. I'm pretty sure that I don't need to convince you that we must get rid of the Trudeau Liberals, and because I know that Ezra and his team are doing a very good job to explain the disastrous record of the Trudeau government. The only important debate from a true conservative perspective is who is the best positioned to replace him. We have less than a year to decide this. Andrew Scheer is not that person for a whole series of reasons that now differentiate the old Conservative Party from the People's Party. Exhibit 1, pandering to interest groups. Let's talk about supply management. I know that you must be fed up of that issue. I'm always talking about supply management, but it cannot be avoided. That's the socialist system put in place by Pierre Elliott Trudeau in the 1970s to protect 13,000 dairy, poultry, and eggs producers, and forces Canadian families, Canadian consumers to pay hundreds of dollars more every year for poultry, eggs, and dairy products. It is a cartel. It is a legal cartel that is allowed to fix the price, and they are doing that every year, every February. They are raising the price for these products. That's the opposite of a free market. There is absolutely no reason for a Conservative Party to support such a system, apart from the fact that in a few ridings, mostly in Quebec, and maybe my riding, in Ontario also, the supply management vote can have an influence on the results. It is not the economic issue itself that is so important for us. It is important because it is a litmus test. If you cannot resist pressure from the dairy cartel, how you will be able to resist pressure from all other powerful interest groups? Those that demand subsidies, special protection from competition from the government, a legal privilege, and various other special goodies from the government at the expense of 37 million Canadians. You won't be able to do that. I have been absolutely clear on this. Our party, the People's Party of Canada, will propose policies that are good for all Canadians. It will resist pressures from interest groups, and I know that this can cost votes, but how can we restore a true democracy if nobody is willing to take this risk? Andrew Scheer wants to keep playing that game. This is why I call the Conservative Party of Canada too intellectually and morally corrupt to be reformed. The People's Party is the principal alternative. I have another exhibit, Exhibit 2, immigration. We all agree that we are a country built on immigration. But mass immigration is causing a backlash everywhere. What we need is a policy of sustainable immigration to fulfill Canada's economic needs. Our immigration policy should not aim to forcibly change the cultural character and social fabric of our country. The vast majority of Canadians rightly expect immigrants to learn about our history, our culture, master one of our official languages, and adopt widely shared Canadian values, Western civilization values. Under the Harper government, Canada welcomed on average 250,000 immigrants every year. Under the Liberals, that number will go up to 350,000 immigrants every year. And the Trudeau Advisory Committee, the Barton Committee, suggested we should go as high as 450,000 a year. But 49% of Canadians say that they want fewer immigrants. And I have been very clear. I want us to go back to the average of the upper years. But the Conservative Party of Canada, under Andrew Scheer, has not proposed a number. They want to do studies, studies, and studies. On issues such as immigration, multiculturalism, diversity, they are simply not willing to push back against the dominant left-wing narrative and they are afraid to create controversies. I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid to tackle controversy. And that's why the People's Party is the principal alternative. Exhibit 3, corporate welfare. Are you tired of paying taxes to bail out Bombardier, GM? And you're right. Almost all economists agree that corporate welfare does not make our economy more productive. Either a company is well managed and profitable and does not need corporate welfare, or a company is bad managed or unprofitable and should not get any government aid. So for us, abolishing corporate welfare should be one of the least controversial policies for a Conservative Party, a party that believes in free markets. But for the Conservative Party of Canada, it is important for them because it serves them and it is helping them to buy votes with taxpayers' money. I propose to abolish all corporate welfare programs, including the regional development agencies, and you have regional development agencies here also in Alberta, and we have one in Quebec and one in Atlantic Canada, and I will use the money that we save to lower taxes to all entrepreneurs in this country. Andrew Scheer never denounces corporate welfare. Actually, he has proposed instead to use these regional agencies more efficiently to buy votes by naming a regional minister for each one. On this issue again, the People's Party is the principal alternative. Exhibit 4, climate change. Climate change, oh my God. The United Nations recently released another report announcing the end of the world within a few years, unless we essentially shut down most of our economy. I recognize that most scientists say that human activity is responsible for climate change. But there are also scientists saying other factors like the sun have more impact on climate change. I'm not a scientist. I'm not going to decide who is right. But what I know that we are not going to destroy our economy on that subject. If global warming is to get worse, which it is still uncertain, we must be richer so that we can better adapt to it. Only gradual technological change will allow us to transition to other sources of energy. In any case, whatever we do here in Canada will have zero effect on global climate. The liberal carbon tax is not only bad for our economy, it is only hypocritical virtue signaling. Andrew Scheer is against, I must admit, is against liberal carbon tax. But the first thing he did after becoming the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada last year was to whip his caucus to vote in favor of the Paris Accord on climate change. And he says he will have soon a plan to reach the Paris CO2 reduction targets. The Paris Accord also commits Canada and other rich countries to transfer billions of dollars to poor countries to help them fight climate change. It is a giant redistribution scheme. I'm the only politician in Ottawa who promises to take Canada out of the Paris Accord. And we will not impose any new tax or regulation or subsidies to Canadians on the top of that what exists right now at the provincial level and municipal level. So, for me, it's another proof that the People's Party of Canada is the only principal alternative. And finally, Exhibit 5, equalization. Oh, I know that's one of your favorite topics. Yeah, you're all fed up paying for this program only to see the billions of dollars go to other provinces. As a Quebecer, I can tell you that I'm ashamed to live in a province that has been a beneficiary for half a century. The equalization program is unfair for the provinces that never received any money. It is also unfair and inefficient for the recipient provinces because it is designed as a welfare trap that keeps them poorer. It encourages keep taxes high and intervene more in their economies. They don't have as much incentive to make their economies more competitive because more private sector growth will lead to less equalization money. Have you heard Andrew Scheer say something about this? No, and you won't. You won't. He's just too afraid to touch it. When the program's formula was renewed without change this summer, I was the only politician in Ottawa to say anything. I'm from Quebec, and I'm not afraid to open this debate. If this will not convince you that the People's Party is the principal alternative, I don't know what to do. There is more issues where the People's Party proposes solutions that challenge the statu quo, abolishing foreign aid and saving the $5 billion that we spend every year to help Canadians instead. Having a foreign policy that focuses on security and prosperity of Canadians, not on pleasing a dysfunctional United Nations. Getting rid of boutique tax credits and lower personal taxes for every Canadian. And also let provinces experiment with private delivery of healthcare within, yes, private delivery of healthcare within a publicly funded universal system that get rid of waiting lists like the European countries have done. Also, privatize Canada Post. And the last one for Ezra. Yes, cutting the CBC budget. Yeah. Yes. I'll be pleased to do that. I'll be pleased. You think that CBC is bad? Radio-Canada in French, it is worse. So, on these and many other issues, the Conservative Party has nothing specific to offer. On the masthead of my blog, there was for many years a sentence that summarizes my approach to politics. If you want conservative principles to win the battle of ideas, you have to defend them openly, with passion and with conviction. I have been defending the same small government principles since I entered into politics 12 years ago. The specific policies that I proposed during the leadership campaign for the Conservative Party of Canada are the same ones that form the basis of the People's Party platform. With me, you know what you are getting. What about Andrew Scheer's Conservative? A year and a half after becoming the leader, Scheer is still an unknown quantity. Most Canadians didn't know who he is and what he really stands for. The party has to run ads on TV to make sure Canadians have some idea of who he is. We know he is against the carbon tax, against illegal immigrants, and for pipelines. That's fine. We all agree with this. But what else? The Conservative Party still has no platform for the next year's election. They keep saying they will unveil bits and pieces of it in the coming months. Do you know why they are not ready? Yeah, you don't know why, but I'll tell you why. It's because they're too busy and they're still doing polls and focus group. They're too busy to do polling and focus group. That's why. It's not about principle. It's about pandering. They are trying to determine the types of promises to specific groups and voter segments that will bring them the most votes, and the buzzwords that will get them the most positive reactions. It's all about election gimmicks. That's how the Conservatives do politics. That's how the Liberals do politics. My approach is the opposite. I believe we must be out there all the time with the same straightforward ideas and policies before, during, and after an election. That's how more Canadians will get to understand them, agree with them, and support them. That's how we push back against political correctness, against the predominant left-wing narrative that tries to portray our ideas as illegitimate. Scheer will never be an effective salesman for conservative ideas. But don't take my word for it. Take his. Just last week, in Toronto, he did an interview with the Sun media. Scheer said that the Liberals have moved so far to the left, and I quote, "We have an opportunity to say that we are pragmatic, centrist party with room for lots of different views on lots of different issues." Yeah, pragmatic, centrist, lot of different views. So, no principle, no coherent direction, no vision for our country. Whatever you want, you will get it. He will give it to you. So that's not conservative. So I think that you agree with me that what they're doing right now, it's not conservative. They don't have any principle. They try to tell you what you want to hear. And if it's not popular, if 40% of the population they don't agree with that, they won't speak about it. But privately, they will tell you, yes, they believe in that. But publicly, they won't. So we must do what we believe in politics, and that's why I'm in politics, and I'm very pleased to be the leader of the People's Party of Canada. And speaking about what he said, I must say that he certainly has a point. The NDP has become so far left that they've dropped out of the political spectrum. The Liberals are the new left. The Conservatives are moving to the center to replace them. This means that the People's Party is now the only party occupying the right. The People's Party is the principal party. I hope that by now you are at least convinced that there are major differences between the Conservative Party and the People's Party. And if that you need a little bit more to be convinced, I must answer another argument. So there's still another argument that many people are still raising about our party. They are saying only the Conservatives are strong enough to win. Voting for the People's Party will split vote and help Trudeau be elected. Let's look at the facts. Despite Trudeau's disastrous record, despite the Indian trip, despite the deficits bigger than promised, the attacks on small business, the carbon tax, the illegal migrant crisis, the various ethical scandals, despite all of this, the Liberals are still ahead in the polls. Scheer has been behind Trudeau in almost every poll for the past year and a half. He is no salesman for true conservative ideas, and he is a weak salesman for pragmatic centrist ideas. He is simply not going to win. While the Conservative Party is stagnating, the People's Party is growing fast. We are not in the 1980s and the early 1990s anymore, before the internet, before social media, when it took years and years for the Reform Party to get established. What took years then takes weeks today. We are going to have a riding association in every riding before the end of this year. Candidates in every riding will be chosen early next year. We will be ready. A lot can happen within a year. Emmanuel Macron left the Socialist Party and founded a new party just a year before he was elected President of France. So, I'm telling you, you can have both, getting rid of Justin Trudeau and electing a true conservative party to replace Justin Trudeau Liberals next year. You can do that if you vote for your values, if you vote for your principles, if you vote for what you believe in, and if you vote strategically. Choose the principal alternative, the People's Party of Canada alternative. Merci. Thank you. Merci. 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 Merci.